This right here is our numbers matching 1968 GTO. It's RM23, our 23rd giveaway vehicle. And it's unlike anything we've done before. First of all, it's the first Pontiac.
Yep.
It's the first GTO. And it's the first numbers matching drivetrain we've done. So talking a little bit about RestoMods, there's always how original do you keep the car? How much stuff do you add? How much stuff do you change?
Right.
This one, with the numbers matching drivetrain, that means it's the original engine that came with the car, the original transmission. What else is original in that drivetrain?
The rear end. This thing was like pretty highly optioned, so whoever bought this car brand new, I mean, it's already a 400 cubic inch engine, so probably not a huge need to modify. I mean, sky's the limit with that, but such a special car like this, like you said, walking the fine line of the word RestoMod, there's a balance there. And I think we nailed it with this car. Such a good GM A-body, but a really good looking one. The GTO has a lot of styling cues that you don't see on Chevelles, and that's what makes them special. So let's talk a little bit more about the rest of the stuff that makes this car special.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, GM A-body and the 400 cubic inch V8 was the largest displacement available in the A-body, I think until 70, when they were so far behind Chrysler and Mopar.
Right, they went to the 454.
Guys, yeah, they opened it up to try to compete on the street with those Mopar cars. But this one is the largest V8 you could get in a GM A-body in 1968. It's the high output 400 with an automatic transmission. I think we looked it up and there's only 3,400 made with this option configuration in 1968. So the hard top with the 400 cubic inch high output and the automatic transmission. Pretty rare car, pretty rare configuration set. And like you said, there was tons of GMA bodies, the Chevelle, the El Camino, the Oldsmobiles.
Oldsmobiles, yeah.
What
Buick
else?
Skylarks.
Yeah, the Skylarks.
Yeah.
And then the Pontiacs, obviously. And I think this is actually, they in 68, these were Tempests.
Right, yeah, the base model, I think, was that, and then the GTO was, like the sport option. There's the one you want, one you want, for sure.
Exactly. And you can always tell these Pontiacs, even the Le Mans and the Tempest, by this nose cone.
Yeah, they got the Pontiac beak.
Yeah.
This car wears it well, though, man. This front end is hard to argue with. I love the hideaway headlights. It's a GTO, Everybody recognizes these cars, and it's because they just look so great.
Yeah, they do. I mean, are these fiberglass? Because I know these are also hard to get. What are these made out of?
Yeah, it's like a interesting, I don't know exactly the chemicals they had to make this in the 60s, but yeah, it's like a hard rubberish type deal.
But it's hard, like if you crack one of these, it's super difficult to find a replacement.
Yeah, I mean, they're designed to take an impact. I mean, people used to, I guess, use bumpers in the true sense of the word back then. They would bump into things and that's how they knew. So, with the Pontiac, it was you do see a lot of them that they get dinged up, that protrudes so far in the middle there, but this one's in good shape, so.
Yeah, and I think this one's original to the car, and then like you said, it's got the hideaway headlights in here. Quick cut to the B-roll of the hideaway headlights.
Yeah.
We did leave the original drivetrain alone for the most part in this car, but we are RestoMods, so we had to upgrade some things, and to me that always comes back to drivability.
100%.
How much fun is this car to just jump in, turn the key, and go do whatever you're gonna do. Cruise around on a Saturday, go chase your barking dog, whatever you need to do. How much fun is it just get in and drive?
Right.
And so to that end, I think there's a lot, and safety, right? Safety in 1968 was different than safety in 2023.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what we did change. I know there's a lot on the underside and a few other things. Talk about what we changed on this car to make it a little more drivable. Okay,
so we didn't really want to change how it looks. That was already dialed, but like you said, drivability. So with that being said, there was some stuff left to be desired with this car having the original braking system. It was manual 4-wheel drums, which probably was okay back then. And it didn't not work. It wasn't super dangerous, but modern traffic is a lot different than it was in 1968. And Wilwood disc brakes are a lot better than 4-wheel drums that they had in 1968. So we did that, and then handling. This car rode really nice, but it was a boat. I mean, it would body roll and lean, and it had a lot of original suspension parts that were just kind of worn out. All original, but just worn out. So we partnered up with SpeedTech, and just threw their full package at it. So this is like their track time package, completely upgraded suspension. We'll show you guys the underside so you can see how much work went into that. Viking coilovers, so they're dual adjustable now. You can really play with basically the handling characteristics of this car. It still rides really nice on the road, but when you turn it in to a corner now, it doesn't body roll and lean, it's just planted. So when you're taking like an off ramp at normal freeway speeds, this thing just feels safe. You know, it doesn't feel like, oh, I might go over the edge here, you know? And so with all that, we also ended up upgrading the wheel and tire package. Because of the brakes being bigger, we had to go with a bigger wheel. This car had the original 14-inch wheels on it, and this car was originally optioned with redline tires. So I thought that was a really cool touch that we saw on the original window sticker, which we'll talk a little bit about. So we wanted to go with redline tires again. It's just a very GTO thing. So we went with Diamondback classic redline tires. These are basically vulcanized onto a modern Uniroyal radial. And then the US Mags. This is their Bandit series, and this is basically designed for a Pontiac. It looks almost identical to the original wheel that was in this car, but in a 17-inch size to clear those brakes, and it's an aluminum wheel now, so it's much lighter. Just a modern adaptation, modern version of what this car originally came with, which is kind of what we were going for. We didn't want to drastically change the soul of this car, but the driving experience, we did drastically change. We also went into some steering components in this. So it has all new rebuilt steering with a Borgeson quick ratio box. And then, like I said, the Wilwood brakes, and they're now power assisted brakes as well. So that kind of rounded out the package for the driving experience. And we left a great looking car looking great. And honestly, everything that we put on this car bolted in. So if you did want to go back to a purist Pontiac and you're not going to really drive the car that much with all the original parts, you know, you could bolt all that back on. We didn't do anything too radical that you couldn't change, but I would never change it from what it is now. After driving it before and after, this is the way to go. This is just, it really shines now. It had plenty of power. It had the rumble. You know, the Pontiac 400 is a great engine, but now you feel like you got the rest of the car to really experience that, to really enjoy the handling, just a more well-balanced car.
Yeah, better than new, right?
Exactly, and that was the goal. You know, this car was really cool when it was new. We were poring over all these documents.
Yeah, I brought out some of the stuff that we have. So there's a really cool organization, the Pontiac Historical Service. So people that are really into finding out the history of their car have some really great resources available to them. Some of the original things that we have, actually in the original envelope, the original warranty documents.
It's weathered. I think we're out of...
Yeah, we may be out of warranty on this particular car, but all the original warranty documents. And then through the PHS, we got the original window sticker. So this tells you exactly what this car was ordered with, all the options, exactly as it would have been printed on the window when you walked up to the dealership in 1968. And the total sticker price on this car, believe it or not, in 1968, you were out the door, all done with options, everything, just under $4,500, $44.88 and 54 cents.
What a deal.
Yeah, steal. We paid slightly more than that. Yeah. And then spent more on improving it. So we've got the original window sticker, and just like it says, if you think this Pontiac looks great, just wait till you drive it. Also, so about how many of these were built. So in 68, they built 77,704 GTOs, hardtop GTOs, I should say. Total 87,684. 9,900 of those were convertibles. 77,704 hardtops. Only 3,140 of those were a hardtop with the 400 high output in an automatic configuration. So pretty rare configuration of those. Again, all these figures are available from the Pontiac Historical Service. And then also found underneath the rear seat of this car is the original punch card that they used in the Pontiac factory to say, hey, here's all the options for this car and here's how it should be built. They would actually feed this into a computer.
You know, a computer.
Kids today
a computing device.
Don't even recognize CDs and tapes and floppy disks and stuff. So this was even before that in 1968. This is how they would store data and feed it into it. It was a computer.
It was a computing device.
Yes,
correct.
It was a computing device. So we've got a lot of original documentation with this car, as well as some supplemental documentation from the Pontiac Historical Service. that will go to the winner of our M23, because let's not forget, someone's gonna take home this incredible, drivable work of art. Let's look under the hood.
All right.
So this looks pretty original under here, but I see a couple touches here and there, like this, for example, is a modern compressor.
Yeah. So we didn't get too carried away. It had the original engine. It was that beautiful Pontiac blue. It was painted that already. But yeah, like you pointed out, a few touches just for drivability. So a modern compressor, an aluminum radiator, electric fans, and an upgraded alternator. So nothing wild, but a fresh rebuilt Pontiac 400 with a few little things on it to bring it into the modern age. And it looks great. It still looks pretty original, original air cleaner, just a lot of stuff that's very 1968, you know?
Yeah, and just a couple things for, like you said, modern drivability and reliability, right?
Correct.
You want to be able to just, you know, drive this car when you want, let it sit for a couple days, jump back in, take it on a Sunday cruise, whatever. I do see, is that the original heater box, or what do we have over here?
Yeah, all the original AC as far as the underdash components, just an upgraded compressor and condenser, and then upgraded refrigerant as well, because we use a little bit more environmentally safe refrigerant today than they did back then. But
absolutely, but other than that, pretty original. And this car gets up and goes, man.
Yeah, I was surprised. Maybe you can drop some footage, but we did take this car to our local 8th Mile drag strip. Not with the intention of really, like, we didn't think we were gonna win any races, you know, because we have a lot of cars around that are very, very modified. And like you said, this is kind of our first venture into like such a cool, like more original car, but obviously with a lot of touches. So we didn't expect to burn the barn down with this thing, but it surprised us. It was actually not slow. It has a really cool his and hers shifter we'll have to talk about when we jump in the interior, but I was actually using that when we were going down the drag strip. It worked. The car is not overpowered, so it does kind of still have traction. And it went down the track pretty quick.
It posted some good times. I mean,
it beat some cars I didn't think it should beat. So I was really pleased with that. That just reinforced that, you know, you hear a lot of stories about the GTO being the king of the streets depending on what town you lived. You know, a lot of people claim that with different muscle cars.
Depending on whether or not you had a Mopar guy living in your town.
That too, yeah, you hear that a lot. But I can see it. You know, 1968, there were some cool cars out, but this is right up there with them. So I'm sure it held its own back then. I mean, just experiencing what it did as far as like kind of a stock drivetrain, I was pleased. I was pleased with how peppy it is. And even driving it around on the street, cruising this thing down the freeway at 70, it feels right at home. It doesn't feel strained. It's got plenty of torque. It's still in a good RPM range, so I'm happy with the drivetrain on this car. Pontiac did it right. You know, they had a great engine.
Yep, and it looks great. I think, again, walking that fine line of, you know, original restoration and then a few tasteful modifications. So I think, as usual, you guys did a great job in here. And it's a whole heap of fun to drive. Let's check out the rest of the car.
Yeah.
So this thing is obviously a GMA body. I mean, this is really, I love this no post, big opening, hard top look that you see on so many of these of the era. The Chevelles, obviously not the El Camino, but it's just a signature look, and then they let each marquee put their own touches on it, but you still see this same opening in here. There's a lot of common themes in there, and it's just a great shape. Yeah,
and on this car, it's kind of cool because you can see this killer interior. This is a bucket seat car with a console and their sport wheel, I believe it's called, and the wood grain dash and the wheel. Everything's so classy on the interior of this car.
We'll get to the interior, but just looking at it through here in this opening is awesome. It's a beautiful car. So moving around the back, some cool GTO badging. The marker lights are the Pontiac logo there.
Cool little touch.
GTO badging on the back, and then just typical stock trunk in here.
Yep.
It's spare.
Yeah, like we were talking about, this car was restored, you know, so it's got an old bias ply spare to be like correct to the era. Hopefully you don't need to use that ever because it's old. It might get you off the side of the freeway, but that's about it. But yeah, just a nice original type finish. They had this, I think they call it Zolatone finish for GMs, and a good place to put your Cal car cover.
Yeah, shout out to our first sponsor ever, California Car Cover. As with all of our prize cars, they have provided a custom fitted microfiber cover for this car, and whoever wins RM23 will take that home along with the car and $20,000 in cash. a nice instructional sticker on how to use the jack that's included in your spare tire. So this is all very original right here. This is exactly how you would get your trunk delivered, minus the California car cover.
Right.
In 1968. But very clean, rust-free, just as you would expect to see it.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
With that, let's jump into the interior. Like you said, this thing is basically all original. I think there was some like period correct modifications done in terms of the gauges.
Yeah.
Just because the stock gauge cluster doesn't give you tons of info, right?
Correct, yeah. This Pontiac instrument cluster didn't have like actual number readouts for a couple things like oil pressure and water. And it's just nice to keep like a real accurate gauge of that. So this has like, what you would see back in the day was like this Stuart Warner triple gauge pack under the dash. That was the hot ticket, and it just goes well with the theme of the car. It matches that time period. They're super accurate still. Stuart Warner gauges are really killer. So we went ahead and left those in there because it's nice to be able to monitor that stuff. So that's a nice little touch, and it's kind of a vintage set of gauges still in the car. Not original, but that's what you would do if you got this car. You know, one of the only upgrades you would need to do, something like that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's got the original bucket seats. It's got these really cool push button lean forward. So if you are having some friends jump in the back there, you just hit the button on the side and flip the seats forward. It's got the original stock center console. And then of course the famous, completely sexist, it would not be allowed today, his and hers shifter.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And that's just literally what they called it. We can cut to some of the period advertising of the time. But that is literally what they called it. And the idea was you could loan this car to your wife or girlfriend or whoever, and they just automatic put it into drive because you've locked off where you can manually shift the gears. Now, when you jump in and you want to, you know, pull up at a stoplight and tell somebody what time it is, you can click open that other side, slam it over, and shift gears for yourself.
Yeah, you basically have like a gated manual ability to shift, even though it's an automatic trans. You can manually shift this car, and I did find that at the drag strip, it's kind of beneficial. You can kind of wind out the engine a little bit higher RPM, and then choose when you want to shift it. So it's kind of neat. Like you said, I think that was the marketing thing. They call it his and hers. Now, it's 2023. We know, like Anchorman taught us, women can do things now, I would argue there's a lot of women that are probably better drivers than most of us, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But either way, it's got a cool feature. I would say now this might be like, if you want to put someone inexperienced, like maybe a teenager or something, you can.
Yeah, I mean, anybody, or, nowadays people are so into their phones, maybe you're too busy working your phone, you just want to throw it in drive and go.
Yeah,
as
also,
opposed to shifting.
Yeah, which is nice too. Like 99% of the time, that's how you're going to drive this thing. You're just going to put it in drive. Yep. But it's a really cool feature that they had, and it's unique to this Pontiac. It came new in the car, so just a really cool touch.
All right, now you've seen every nook and cranny, tip to tail on our numbers matching 1968 GTO. Now is the time to put yourself in the driver's seat of this monster. Head to RestoMods.com, claim those entries to win, and you could be taking home this one-of-a-kind 68 GTO numbers matching 400 cubic inch high output V8 and $20,000 in your pocket. Claim those entries today, and this could be yours.